What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Creative Thinking Techniques Tools of Leonardo Da Vinci series. Now, my name is Marcus, this is Discover Ignite, and in my last video we actually talked about embracing uncertainty. And the best way to actually do that is no matter what endeavor you are trying to go down, you know there's always uncertainty. You always know that there's some anxiety, there's some stress associated with that, but the best way to do that is actually embrace it, and to actually know that no matter what, you're gonna come up with a solution, or you're gonna get some great experience out of that endeavor. And to actually know that, so you can actually free yourself of those stresses and allow the creativity to cultivate itself. And today we're actually talking about how to balance the logical side and the imaginatory side of our brains, and actually help us foster more creativity through, helping us connect both left and right hemispheres of our brain and coming up with different ideas, right? And what are some of the best ways of actually doing that? So sit back, relax, and let's get started. So before we actually get started on balancing our imaginary side and our logical side, I actually want to talk about Leonardo da Vinci himself and how he developed this, right? Because not only was he a marvelous painter that we all know him for, but he was just as such as a scientist. He did so very much in the scientific community. Not only was he trying to learn about flight, not only was he learning about anatomy, he knew many different things in the scientific realm which helped him, bridge the gap between that imaginary side and that logical side. And so this is what we want to try to do, is be able to cultivate both sides and try to, build the network between both sides, so that way we can actually, become more creative. And this allows us to do that by expanding, essentially our vision, right? So for the first technique, I actually want to use a process from Michael Gabe. He is the author from Think Like Leonardo Da Vinci. And in his process, he uses this technique called mind mapping. And what it essentially does is you take a sheet of paper and you're going to draw a specific item, right? So let's, for example, use a seed, right? We'll use a seed. Now, what is associated with that seed? What can we branch off from that seed? Well, from what we've experienced and through his readings, his example says that from that seed you can derive a carrot, right? And then you want to see what else is associated with that carrot. What can you associate with that carrot? Now you can, say a rabbit would be associated with a carrot. So then you draw a rabbit. And then from that point on, what else could be associated with a rabbit? So you could even draw something like a rabbit hole, or you can draw, a hunter, or, you just want to keep this process going, right? This is essentially what you're trying to do, is just draw the next image and then try to find something associated with that image, and just continue this mind mapping, right? And just go as far as you can till you essentially run out of ideas. Now this can be anything in particular. Just pick something random and just find, different associations with that item you have drawn. And again, just keep going until you run out of ideas. Now this second technique is actually something that is quite simple, and it's one of the easiest ways to help, develop your imagination and your logical side of your brain. And the best way to actually do this is, if you are left or right hand dominant, is to always use the opposite hand whenever you're doing something, whether that is brushing your teeth, whether that is writing, or, drinking, right? If you're drinking a glass of water, and if you're right hand dominant, start using your left hand. You'll find that this is actually helping you develop that connection between the left and right brain to help you be able to be a full brain thinker. And the more you do this, obviously you want to keep doing this, you can keep building that connection between both of them. And the longer you do this, the more adamant you are about it, the better that connection will be. And you'll find that you are quicker to use the logical and imaginary side of your brains to be able to start cultivating better ideas, because you are building that gap. So this next exercise I actually have for you guys is one I thoroughly enjoy. Now, when I particularly did this exercise, I had downloaded an app. I don't recall what exactly the app was. It was some brain training exercise, and I loved it, right? Because it was extremely tricky. At some point, it would go extremely fast, right? And so you find, you can do this exercise, written, or you'll find an app that actually does this, but this particular app would speed up every time you started getting more accurate, and it was harder to try to build that gap between the left and the right brain and trying to build that network so that you can just spit out the response. Now, this particular exercise I am talking about is actually, you can take a sheet of paper or download the app, and what you're going to actually do is get a blue pen. Right now, write the word yellow in blue pen. Now try to say yellow without actually saying blue. Now you find this is actually a lot more difficult than you would think. Now some people could probably, if your left and right has actually been developed throughout the years, you might find this a little easier. That's why I found that the app, I can't remember, it was like Brain Quest or something like that. I don't recall what the app was, but it was extremely good because it went faster, right? Because when you write it on paper, yes, it's a little bit easier because you can take your time, but if you're under a time crunch, right, and it starts, these words and these colors, when they are flashing, it makes it harder to try to stay on top of it, right? Because you really have to be self-aware, and you have to really self-correct and be like, okay, wait a second, I know it says yellow and it's blue, but it's like, it throws you off. And so, the faster you do it, the better you get at it. And building that connection between the left and the right, you find you become extremely fluid in making those decisions, right? Because you are self-aware of what's actually going on, and you realize that yes, it says yellow, but it is blue. And to make that adjustment on the fly and building that network can really help you, and it helps really sharpen your mind so you can be more creative and allow yourself to come up with ideas, because you're using the full strength of your brain, using the logical side and using that imaginary side, right? And so again, a great technique. I will have to look and see what exactly app that is, and if it is, I will go ahead and I will show you guys what app that is, so you guys can also take a look at that as well. So if you like this video, remember to smash that like button. Also subscribe so you don't miss out on any more of these creative thinking techniques with Leonardo da Vinci. And until next time, I will see you guys later.